Okay, so I'll start recording now. Hi everyone, welcome to the Looking Ahead webinar on careers on the third level graduate scheme. I am Abby. I'm the assistant manager of the Global Room. I'm the executive officer. And this is my colleague Orla. Orla is a career consultant with the Career Advisory Service. And this is Ekaterina. Ekaterina is a recent TCD graduate, so congratulations. And she currently works with Pinterest through Accenture. And finally, this is Mark. Mark Escoto is one of the Global Room ambassadors that's graduating this year, so he'll be missed. Mark studies engineering with management and is going on to work with Microsoft. So you'll hear more about that later in the presentation. Okay, so we'll get started. It'll let me switch slides. All right, so today's session, here's just an overview of what we're going to look into today. So I'll go into a quick overview of what the third level graduate scheme is, who can apply and when, how to apply, and what you are entitled to on the Stamp 1G or the third level graduate scheme. And then Orla is going to go through finding work in Ireland for international students. So some stats on international grads who have found work in Ireland, some CV strategies, some job search strategies, and how the career service can support you. And Ekaterina and Mark are both going to give you their experience in finding work in Ireland. So we'll get started. And of course, there will be a Q&A session at the end. So if you can think of your questions right now, or if you can think of them later during the presentation, please feel free to open the Q&A box. It should be on an option down below. So if you have any questions, pop them in there, and Mark will go through the questions for us to answer at the end. Some questions may be answered during the presentation, so please listen carefully. And if you've already asked a question and it's already been answered in the presentation, we'll probably leave it out of the Q&A, but otherwise, please feel free to use the Q&A button. Also, if your question doesn't get answered here, or if we run out of time, you can email the Global Room or the Careers Advisory Service. So here are the email addresses to send any questions to if your question doesn't get answered here. I'll share this slide again at the end. Okay, so let's get into it. So the third level graduate scheme is also called the Stamp 1G. Some people have also called it the Stay Back Visa. Let me just clarify that the Stamp 1G is not a visa. Visas only allow you entry into the country. The Stamp 1G is a permission to reside. So it is this permission, it's also called a third level graduate scheme. So any third level graduate from a non-EU country that has a degree from an Irish institution can apply for the third level graduate scheme. This stamp gives you permission to live and work in Ireland for 40 hours a week for up to 24 months. And whoever applies has to have a minimum of a level 8 degree from an Irish institution. So a level 8 degree is a 4-year undergrad, sometimes 3. But for the most part, a 4-year undergrad degree, and a level 9 is a postgraduate master's degree, and then a PhD and so forth. So the Stamp 1G counts towards an overall limit of 8 years permission to remain in Ireland. So that takes into account your student permission. So there is a limit of 8 years that you can reside in Ireland under a Stamp 2 and a Stamp 1G put together. So as long as you haven't reached the 8-year limit, you can apply for the Stamp 1G. Okay, so who can apply and when? So all non-EU undergrads and postgraduate students can apply. That includes UG, Masters, and PhD. Students who have not exceeded a 7-year limit. So there's a 7-year limit on, I know this sounds confusing, but there's a 7-year limit on a Stamp 2. There's an overall 8-year limit on a Stamp 2 and then onto a Stamp 1G. So the Stamp 1G is valid for 12 months for a level 8 student, so an undergrad, and you can apply for it for up to 24 months for postgraduate students and for Masters and PhD, so level 9 and 10. And you can apply for it as soon as you get your results, because one of the documents needed is a final transcript. So just a caveat on the 24-month scheme for postgrad students. This is a 1+1 stamp. So it's given to you for 12 months or 1 year at the start, and you will have to renew it after the first 12 months. Excuse me. Okay, so how to apply. You'll be glad to know that you don't have to go and get an appointment in Burkey anymore. You can now renew online. So I'm assuming everyone here should already be on a stamp 2. So if you're currently on a stamp 2 and you've gone through the immigration process already, meaning they have your biometric information and nothing's changed, so your passport details are the same, I'm assuming your fingerprints are the same, so you can renew it online as long as they already have your biometric information. So there's the website to renew online. And you just sign in, you register and sign in. You can go onto the INIS website and click immigration and then renewal, and then they'll provide you a link to go in here and renew online. So you have to make an account, and then you fill in the form, you scan the documents that you need, and then you send it off, and then you send off your passport and your current IRP card, and then if they are satisfied with your application, they'll let you know, they'll give you confirmation, and of course you pay the fee as well online. Okay, so what you need is a valid passport, of course, as I said before, your final transcript. So for master's students, this will have to include your dissertation results. I know for some master's students, it's given towards the end of November, and it might have changed due to COVID. So if you have any questions specifically on that, you will have to email me, because it means you may have to extend your stamp 2. So you need a letter to prove that you've completed your studies with Trinity. So this can be gotten from the academic registry. Your final transcripts, depending on what department you are, can be gotten from either the academic registry or from your school. You'll need private health insurance purchased in Ireland. For that, I would advise that you get onto your current insurance provider. They have to be an Irish provider, so I would advise getting onto your current provider and negotiating with them a graduate price, because I believe they do graduate schemes for students that have graduated from Ireland. And as usual, it is still a €300 fee. So if you're renewing online, of course, then you pay by credit or debit card. Okay, so what are you entitled to? So up to 40 hours of employment, so full-time work. There's no limitation on the work category or salary level, so there isn't a minimum that you have to earn the stamp 1G. It gives you a chance to apply then for a general employment permit with your company, or a critical skills permit, or a research hosting agreement if you go on to do research. So there isn't a limit on a category. You can work sort of anywhere. It's the general employment permit and the critical skills that limit you to where and how and when you can work. But I would say, though, limit it to your field, because then it'll just make it easier to apply for a general employment permit. And this, I'll go through the contact details for that later. So with the stamp 1G as well, if you're currently at an undergrad level and you work for a year and decide you want to go back to education, you can go back to education. You can go back and do a level 9, as long as, again, it doesn't bring you over the 8-year limit. So you have to go back at a higher level. You can't go back to the same level or lower. So if you're studying as a level 8, you have to go on to a level 9 if you decide to go back to study. So again, renewal of, if you're a postgrad and you have applied for the 1 year and you want to renew, it's subject again to the 8-year overall limit, and you must satisfy the INIS officer that you've taken steps either to access the suitable graduate level employment. So you have to show proof that you've attended interviews, or you've gotten a job that you're currently in, or that you've applied for jobs. So to extend it on to 24 months or 2 years, you'll have to show that you have been actively seeking work. So the stamp 1G is to allow you that time to find work in Ireland, and also give you that time to apply for the general employment permit, which is a more secure stamp. And that would count towards applying for citizenship in Ireland. Okay, so some useful resources here. So of course, the INIS website gives a more sort of elaborate view of what the stamp 1G is and what rights it gives you. And also the Irish Council for International Students is a great resource for international students. And also, if you want to learn more about the employment, the general employment permit and the research hosting agreement and the critical skills permit, you go on to the Department of Business and Enterprise and Innovation. So that's who you would apply for the general permit and the special skills permit. Okay, so in terms of updates from INIS with regards to COVID-19, some of you may not be in Ireland at the moment and still want to apply for the Stamp 1G. If there are any third years here that are getting jump on getting this information, props to you, but I would imagine that most of my audience here, we're up to 51 now, so yay, welcome. If you are overseas at the moment and you want to apply for the Stamp 1G, you can actually email all of your documents to Burkey, the Burkey registration office. So that email address there, rather than renewing online for now. And then they will provide you with a temporary letter, which you can then use when you're back in Dublin and want to renew online. So with regards to renewing online, just to clarify there, you have to be in Dublin. You can't do it from overseas because you have to send your passport in via on-post registered post, and they have to send the passport and card back to a Dublin address. They will not send it overseas. So that's just a clarification there on the renewal online. So yes, it has to be, you have to be still in Dublin, but I'm aware that a lot of fourth years or postgrads are currently back in their home country. So for the moment, this is a temporary measure that will not always be in place. It's just for the purpose of the pandemic. And as you can see there, it'll cease to apply no later than the 30th of September. So ideally, if you can, I would advise coming back to Ireland before your current Stamp 2 expires to renew onto a Stamp 1G. And then that'll just make the whole process a lot easier. So again, as soon as you get your results, you can apply for the Stamp 1G. I hope that's been a clear presentation. So in terms of where you can get more updates on and announcements from INIS, there's the website there. They have reopened as of the 20th of July, so their office is reopened. They are prioritizing people who have had cancelled appointments so far. So if you're renewing, they advise everybody, as long as you've been to them before and they have your biometric information, to renew online. Okay, so please do stay in touch with the Global Room. We're on all social media. We also, our website is also under tcd.ie/study. And you can email us if your query doesn't get answered, or if you think of any other questions after this presentation, at tcdglobalroom@tcd.ie. Okay, so that's all from me, but it is to be continued, so please stay. I'll pass you on to Orla, who's kindly agreed to present on careers and the Careers Advisory Service. So Orla is going to give you some great tips on searching for work in Ireland. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, great. And can you see my slides as well?
We can, yeah.
We can, great. Okay. So hello everybody, delighted to be here. As Abby said, I work with the Trinity Career Service, and I'm going to go through some of the items. I want to make sure I'm in the right view here. Okay. So you've the full screen view there, do you, Abby? Yeah.
Not yet, no.
No?
It should, can the rest of you see the full screen view? Yeah,
is
now
that
we
it
can.
there?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So as Abby said, these are the items I'm going to go through in the next few minutes. And essentially the news is good in terms of international graduates. The employment is comparable with the overall graduate population, with 80% working after graduation. And this is typically 9 months after graduation. There is a lower percentage of international graduates who go on to do further study. So looking at the international graduates working in Ireland, so of those working, 66% are working in Ireland and 34% overseas. And then if we look at the level of your degree, 54% of honours graduates are working here in Ireland, 69% of taught postgraduate graduates, and 61% of postgraduate research graduates. So that's the national picture for the class of 2018. And if we compare that with the Trinity experience, and the most recent figures that we have for Trinity are the 2017 figures, we have 70% of undergraduates working in Ireland, and 65% of the combined postgraduate taught and research working here in Ireland. And looking at the percentage of international graduates employed by sector, 19% are working in professional, scientific and technical field. Then the next highest is in information and communications. And finally, the next largest sector of employment is financial, insurance and real estate. So these sectors reflect the national demand, or the career areas with high demand in Ireland from CPL, a recruitment agency. And these are all reflective of pre-COVID. This is from February 2020. So you can see that the sectors with the highest demand, accountancy, finance, science, pharmaceutical, technology, creative design, as well as language, jobs and engineering. And again, looking at the survey of the class of 2018, when asked, international graduates indicated that the barriers to employment that they were experiencing were visa-related issues, language related, and perceived discrimination. So we'll have a look at these issues and taking control of the situation and how you can manage that as part of your own CV and job search strategy. But just another interesting statistics to share with you before going on to the CV job search strategy, that you can see that approximately 1 in 3 or so candidates who received the Stamp 1G go on to get the employment permit. And again, 2017 are the stats that are the most recent stats that we have there. So going on then to see, well, what can you do to enhance your chances of actually getting to the interview stage? So the CV is really important. So when looking for work in Ireland, we suggest that you include an address in Ireland so the employer can see that you're committed to being here, that you're eligible to work in Ireland. And again, I'd suggest including that up at the top with your personal details. Really important to give evidence of your English proficiency. And also it's a good idea, if you can, to include an Ireland-based referee. And again, be mindful of the equality legislation here in Ireland, because it could be very different to your home country. So don't include your marital status, your gender, your date of birth, or your nationality. So those few tips will make a big difference to your job search. And then looking very briefly at your job search strategy, be mindful that the majority of jobs are not advertised, and that will also help, but just taking it from the more obvious strategy that most people take, which is looking for work and applying to jobs. My Career is the career service portal, and we advertise jobs there. So please do log in if you aren't already logged into My Career, which is accessible through the career service website. Grad Ireland is a really useful national database of jobs, Irish jobs, and there's lots of other job sites. Think about startups, not just the big brands, and I know Ekaterina is going to say more about that also. And recruitment agencies can also be useful, but by no means the only way to look for work. The National Recruitment Federation, nrf.ie, has a list of recruitment agencies in Ireland by sector, so it can be interesting for those of you interested in working with recruitment agencies. So really your time and energy, I would suggest, would focus on speculative applications, identifying organisations where you'd like to work and proactively applying. And a key part, I think what underpins everything is your network. In Ireland and internationally, you may have connections abroad who have links here in Ireland, and your Trinity community is really important. Your classmates, Trinity graduates, as well as your academic lecturers. Again, reach out, let them know what it is that you're looking for work-wise. Depending on which profession or sector that you're targeting, be sure to connect in with your professional associations. LinkedIn is hugely useful. The Trinity LinkedIn group, there's 80 to 90,000 people on that group. So again, you know, I would see those as warm contacts. So do reach out to Trinity community, and obviously beyond that to grow your network. And mentoring, Trinity has a strong mentoring program, and I'm going to say a few words about that now. So Trinity Alumni Career Mentoring is alumni to student mentoring. It's delivered to you by Trinity Career Service and the Trinity Development and Alumni team. And there is a database that TDA, Trinity Development and Alumni, manage, and you can register with them using your Trinity username and password and reach out to over 1,400 Trinity alumni worldwide. So you have all of this information on the Trinity Career Service mentoring pages, and there's lots of things that you can work with a potential mentor. So you can either message briefly or you can request a longer term relationship. If you don't hear back from an alumnus, wait a week and then send them a reminder. If you still don't hear, let alumni at tcd.ie know and move on to another alumnus, because it is uncertain times at the moment. So, but we're still interested if you're not hearing back from alumni. But a huge network and some really positive responses and experiences from students through mentoring. And be aware that you are in demand. There are so many employers that are coming to Trinity to look for you, to work for them. So be aware that all of these employers are contactable, and they advertise through, as I said, My Career for vacancies, and they're also going to be attending fairs. So I suppose quick synopsis of what the Trinity Career Service, how we can support you, and then following on from where I just was with employer events and fairs, we have 4 virtual fairs scheduled for next semester, week 2. So they start in week 2 and continue from there on, and you can link into My Career to find out more. It's still early days, so it'll be another month or 2 before they're actually live on My Career. We also have vacancies advertised on a continuous basis, and again, My Career to see the vacancies that are being advertised by some of these employers. We have weekly CV and LinkedIn clinics, and these are provided by our team of CV reviewers. They are 15-minute slots, so you can book in again through My Career to book your CV LinkedIn slot. You can choose to bring 1 document at a time, and book in through My Career, and there are confidential 20-minute career guidance appointments also available, and you can see your career consultant's diary and book in through My Career. So that gives you a quick overview of some of the services on offer from the Central Trinity Career Service. So that's for all students except for those postgraduate students in the Trinity Business School. And you have your own careers and community team. So the advice there is for postgraduate business school students to reach out to your careers advisor within the business school, and your careers advisor's contact details are on the Business School website. So that's a quick overview from me before I'll stop sharing now, Ekaterina, and I'll hand over to you.
Great, perfect. Hi, everybody. I would love to introduce myself. I'm Ekaterina. I'm a graduate of Trinity College of 2018, and I started Master in Marketing in Trinity College. I would like to tell you a little bit about myself and my story. I would say it would be very interesting as I moved to Ireland from Russia in September 2017. So it's almost 3 years in Ireland. Time flies. And especially interested in my first background in Russia is teaching. So I decided to completely change my life and to develop in a completely different direction from going from teaching English and German to business and marketing specifically. And here I am in Ireland and studying my master in marketing in Trinity College. And of course, having a student visa, I had to look ahead and think as I had only 1 year of study, I already had to think it over and understand what will be my next steps after study, even during the study, where I'm going to work, how I'm going to get visa, and if it is possible to get work permit in Ireland. So even during the study, as it was very challenging, and most of the students in my class already had business background, and I was, I think, one of a couple of students who were just for whom everything was new. I realized that I need to start searching for a job in advance, and that's helped me a lot. I already in February, a couple of months before submitting the dissertation, I started searching for opportunities. I started searching for very different internships, as having just a student visa, not a 1G visa. It's important to mention that this is possible to get a job, definitely, but usually most probably in a startup with internship. And that's where I started. My first job was as an intern in a digital marketing startup in Ireland. And I started my first job while writing the dissertation. So that was, I would say, one of the most challenging times in my life, because I had to combine study and work at the same time. And sometimes during lunch breaks, I had to do research. So it was I remember this time with pleasure, and I think I will never forget this. But that's how we always need to think ahead, to look in advance what will be the next steps. And now I just thinking about like a game of chess. So we always think about what will be the next step and what can help us, and what will be what will be the consequences. So yes, that's my first job was in the digital marketing startup when I had a student visa, and I'm always keen on development, on professional development, and when working in a startup, I realized that I would love to move further. I would love to develop myself in a global company, and I applied to Accenture. And currently, I'm account manager in Accenture, working for a Pinterest project. And I applied for Accenture, and it is important to mention that it was possible to get a job there only when I got 1G visa. So I would love to say that in most companies, it is possible to find a job when we do get 1G visa. And what I would recommend to apply in advance. Even, for example, if we have an appointment for October, it's important to apply even in August, because the application process takes time. And yes, so that's how that was my beginning in Ireland, in my career profession. And what especially helped me was that I was looking in different directions. I was searching for a job in startup. I was also looking for opportunities in global companies. And what I especially love about Ireland is that Ireland is in Ireland, there are many tech companies, and there are many. Ireland is a headquarter for many big companies like Google, Facebook, Pinterest. And apart from this, there are a lot of startups that are developing briefly and rapidly, and there are huge opportunities in these startups as well. And when I was looking for opportunities, being myself in a startup, I was searching for opportunities in global companies, also in startups, in the area that is important for me. I'm always developing in the area that I, I enjoy. Now I'm currently working in marketing and sales, so I'm working with clients a lot. I'm very keen on working in the area that involves lots of communication, negotiations, and interaction with people. And I was looking for a particular job. Even in Accenture, I mentioned that I'm very interested in this particular area in digital marketing and sales. That's why I would say that when we have 2 years, getting a 1G visa, we have 2 years before we will need a work permit. And this is the perfect time for us to understand what actually we want to do, which work we enjoy, and if the company where we're currently working at really satisfies us, or either where we would love to develop in other companies. And for me, these 2 years were, I would say, one of the most important, one of the most challenging years, and at the same time most exciting, because in Accenture I was working in 2 projects. I was working in a Twitter project as a consultant analyst, and then I got a position in Pinterest as a partner and partner manager, and then as an account manager. So that was a lot of there were a lot of changes during this time, and then I got promotion there. And what I especially love is about Ireland, that when we're really eager to develop and grow, there are lots of opportunities, and companies it's possible to get promotions if there is something we can be distinguishable at. And it's important to show initiative. It's important to show motivation, and to show that you are eager to develop. And it's important to mention that in order to get work permit, it's not that easy, but it is possible. And it is important when you're working in a company that you really like it, to show that to show your strengths, to show to develop your skills, to show the employers that you are eager to develop, you're eager to grow. And also, what I also realized during these 2 years, it's very important to be natural, to be yourself, to not to try to show up and to pretend that you can do it, but just to do what you really love, to develop in the area that really makes you happy. And when I just during these 2 years, I also realized it's apart from work, it's very, very crucial to find hobbies, to find something that will inspire you, because currently I'm working in sales and marketing, and I would say sometimes it's very stressful, and it's not easy to find work that you will really enjoy at once, because because on the one hand we need to earn, to provide for living. On the other hand, we need to get work permit. Also we would love to enjoy our work, and there are many things that come together. And what helped me a lot, that I started writing. And now, working as a sales marketing manager, I'm also a writer for Irish Business Journal, and this helps me a lot. This inspires me, and it helps me in my work in the office. It also helps me in my daily life, and it's something that now I cannot imagine my life without writing. And what I would love to tell you is that when looking for a job, think also about something that you really love and that will motivate you. Because apart from work, apart from thinking about making money, think something about what you would love to do, what area you would love to do. If you are passionate about creative design, for example, web design, you can do it additionally to the main work. And that's also I love about Ireland, that there are opportunities that you can find a work in their global company. At the same time, you can find a work additional work in a startup and develop some other skills. So there are lots of opportunities for development. And last week I got work permit in Accenture. I'm very happy about it. And this is after 2 years when I'm living here. And exactly after, in September there are 3 years when I'm here and 2 years when I'm working in Ireland. And I would say that I was always optimistic. That's actually what helped me to keep positive, to show my strengths at work, to prove that I'm motivated, that to prove my leadership skills, to prove that I can do this job and employers can rely on me. And I would say that it's important to show your strengths and it's important to realize your strengths. That's why I highly recommend to plan in advance, to think for internships, to look for internships, to think what area exactly you would love to develop at. And also, I would also love to give you some advice in terms of application, in terms of CVs. The most important that I realized is it's important to prepare, to spend some time on preparing a good CV and a good cover letter. And it's important to make it precise, well structured, and well organized, to include the experience that is most relevant to this position, to emphasize your strengths, to emphasize your achievements, and to show exactly why you are unique, why you are a unique and valuable candidate. So think about what distinguishes you from other candidates and what makes you unique. And just put it very precisely on the CV and cover letter that will be clear for employers. That's what I realized and what's really helpful. I think that's the most important that I would love to mention. And to summarize, it's important to look ahead. It's important to plan in advance and to like playing chess. Last month I actually bought chess. It's now one of my hobbies because during quarantine, it's we sometimes start finding some new inspiration. So now I have chess at home, but I'm just recently realized it's everything about playing chess. Its life is about playing chess. Is just thinking ahead and what will be the best step that will bring success. So yes, I think that's the most important that I would love to share, and I will be happy to connect. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Ekaterina. And of course, if you're willing to, like you said, if anyone's interested in marketing, and if you're willing to connect with people, if people ask me for your email address or if they ask me to connect with you, I can share. Okay, so if anyone would like to connect more with Ekaterina, you can. So just email tcdglobalroom@tcd.ie. I decided not to share contact details, obviously, for obvious reasons. So I'm going to pass you guys on to Mark for a couple of minutes before we start the Q&A session. Mark, could you just give a quick overview of your applying for Microsoft, what helped your application, and stuff like that?
Everyone. So as Abby said, my name is Mark, and apologies if I do start to stutter. This is a sort of last minute sort of thing, so I come unprepared, so I do apologize for that. So I just finished my final year, so I finished my final exams in May. So I just did my integrated master's in engineering with management, and this year I actually got a role in Microsoft's graduate program. Called the Aspire program in business and operations. So I'm drifting away slightly from engineering. So as Ekaterina said, one of the big things that helped me get a job at Microsoft is internships. So I took a year out during my studies to pursue an internship last year at a company called General Electric. So I did it in product quality, which helped me see sides that I wouldn't have seen if I did a regular engineering internship. So I saw sides in supply chain that I really enjoyed and that I actually feel passionate about. So that helped me decide my decision in terms of the grad scheme that I'm going to pursue. And it helped me during the interview process because I was able to show, hey, I did this and I did this, and I'm actually very interested in the way how a specific thing works. And it shows. So during your interview process, the way you speak, the way you show your passion, they'll be able to see it, and that will help you achieve your job. Even if you don't think, so let's say, for example, you're applying for jobs right now. Even if you don't think you're going to get it, try. Because people will see your willingness to learn. And that's actually a big part of going into these companies. Your willingness to learn is really important. One of the other tips as well is if you're in your final year, or if you're just starting your final year, try and get involved in something on campus. So for example, clubs and societies, because even though they're extracurricular activities, they actually do help, because it shows that you can manage your time. So Ekaterina did an internship as well as her dissertation. So if you do something like, for example, if you do some sort of sport, I know it's very challenging to manage your time between sports, for example, or an internship or anything in between, but it sort of shows to these companies that you're able to balance your studies as well as doing something outside of it. And it shows a bit of versatility. So right now I'm a student ambassador. I work with the marketing team at Trinity. I was just doing a whole load of different things just to get that CV built up. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything that is too it may not seem impressive to you, but it shows that you're actually quite versatile in the way that you do things. So on top of that, one of the other things that I'd recommend is use your resources. So I use my, for example, in the career services here in Trinity, there's a CV clinic. So they spotted mistakes that I myself didn't even realize I made. So one of the big things is use your resources. Use it, because once you go out of college, you won't have those resources anymore. Although they do offer a graduate services, so the offer is still there, but it's easier to have them now as a student. And as Ekaterina said, apply early. Apply early. I remember my friends were applying while I was already getting my first interview rounds. So a lot of companies tend to do it on an ongoing basis. So if you apply early enough, you'll be able to, or they'll be able to spot you first, pretty much. And because it's ongoing, so if some companies do it ongoing, if the roles get filled, then you're out of luck. Even if you have the most impressive CV, but a lot of them have quotas, so apply early. And a big thing is, some companies actually do not post. It was mentioned earlier, they do not post. So I actually didn't find out about these my Microsoft grad scheme until I went to the website myself, and then I found it. So some of them do not post or do not advertise because a lot of people will be searching for it, will be proactive. So yeah, those are my biggest tips for applying for jobs.
Thank you so much, Mark. And as you said, it was on the fly, so well done. I don't know about you guys, but personally, I learned a lot about careers and even now after graduating as well. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Katrina. And of course, thank you, Orla, for going through things to consider whenever applying for jobs. It's been so helpful. I hope you guys found the presentations helpful as well. So again, our panelists are still here. We'll get right into question and answer. So Mark, if you have the first question there for me.
Okay. So the first question is, if my employer is providing the health insurance, can it be used to apply for the 1G visa?
Yes, as long as you can provide documental proof of this.
Okay. If my IRP renewal, is my IRP renewal process the same if I recently completed my bachelor's and I'm moving on to my master's?
It should be, as long as they have your biometrics. If you're still applying as a student, it will still be a stamp 2. So if you're moving on from an undergrad to a postgrad, you'll still be applying for a stamp 2, and you can renew online as long as they have your details already.
Okay. So for PhD students, with regards to results, can we apply straight after our vivas or as soon as we submit our dissertation?
You can apply as soon as you have your results, because they'll need to see, and that for PhDs, I realize that might be different than master's students. So it's if they accept your PhD dissertation and you're good to go, and you're officially a doctor. and you can get proof of this in document form from your department, then you can apply for the 1G then.
Okay. So I am currently on a stamp 2. A requirement is that I can only apply for renewals 30 days prior to the expiration of the IRP card. I want to apply for the 1G visa before the 30 days limit. How do I do it?
If you email to City Global and also the Burkey email address, they should be able to advise you on that. They might just say apply online before 30 days, but if you have your results now and you can apply now and you're looking for a job, I'd say email them and they might make an exception there. I'm not promising anything, don't quote me on that. So I'd advise you to email.
Okay, so my IRP card expires on the 30th of September. However, I will be continuing on to a master's, but I'm currently not in the country and will not be able to travel immediately. Will the letter from Burj Key get me into the country?
That depends whether or not you are visa required. So if you're visa required, and if you come back after your IRP expires, you'll need to apply for a visa again to come back in. That's just an issue with the courier and as well the border control officers. So you will need to show proof of entry or proof of permission to enter. So if you're visa required, I'd say come with a letter and as well a visa. So if you're not visa required, obviously the registration letter that Ines has sent you, come with your old IRP card. I always say you can never be over prepared in terms of documents for what you need at border control. So as much as you can.
Okay, so I won't get my master's dissertation results until November, but my stamp 2 expires on December 31st. Will this allow me enough time to apply for the 1G stamp prior to the expiration?
Yeah, so if you have your results by November, I'd say start looking into applying as soon as you do, because it's online, you don't have to book an appointment. So if you get your results start of December, end of November, apply as soon as you have it. It should be enough time. So they piloted this renewal online last year, and it was very, very quick turnover. Now that they've made it available to everybody, it might not be as quick, but it'll still be quite a quick turnover because it's less of the biometrics. They already have your information. They just have to give you the stamp. So as soon as you get your results, you can, and it should be enough time.
Okay, so this one's for Orla. Does each business postgrad get a careers advisor?
I don't work in the business school, but they do have a link to all the careers advisors there, and that was the advice I was given for postgrad students to go onto their website, and each careers advisor's email address is there and students can contact them directly.
Okay,
and can I just clarify, if students have questions for the career service, every other student on campus, careers@tcd.ie is the best email address rather than sending them to me. And yeah, so just to clarify, contact with the main career service, careers@tcd.ie, but my career is really the portal for all of the information I talked about today. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, so back to Avi. I just wanted to ask, if we take up a job with 1G visa, what happens when it expires?
So as I said, the 1G year is an opportunity to apply with your company for a general skills employment permit or a special skills permit. So you'll have to negotiate with your, as Katrina said, make yourself valuable to the company, and you can apply with them. If you want to share your experience, actually, Katrina, congratulations on getting your employment permit, by the way. So
Thank you.
I might pass that question over to you.
Yeah, I would say that yeah, 1 second. Could you please repeat the question?
Sure. So they want to know, obviously the 1G expires after a year or 2 years. They want to know how you approached your company in terms of applying for the general skills permit or the critical skills or general employment, permit.
I'm just looking for a range of questions and
yeah, no
focusing on everything. Of course, I will be happy to answer. I would recommend to discuss it with employer beforehand. When working in Accenture, I mentioned that I will require visa almost 1 year in advance or as soon as possible. And it's important to mention this in advance and to just let them know if it is possible, because not all the companies provide work permit. And it's very, very important to take into consideration that when looking for companies, when discussing it, when speaking with employers, it's important to mention that in the future, in 2 years, in 2 years, for sure you will need work permit, and if with a successful work you will be able to get work permit, because some companies just don't give it because it's their policy, and some companies do, like Accenture, as far as I know, Google as well, Facebook, and it is important to make sure that the company gives it. I also wanted to mention that startups also give work permit. And when I was working in a digital marketing startup, that my first job, it's a digital marketing startup called Digital, they asked me if I need a visa, if I will need a work permit. And as far as I know, their employees who were working in this startup, they had work permit from this startup. This means that even if it's a small company, we do have a chance to get a visa, to get their stamp 1 there as well. That is why I apply to big companies and at the same time to small companies. And and discuss it with employers, let them know in advance, and also remind them, because in my case, I just reminded, I think 3 times, just to make sure that they started this process, because you just remember that if you don't, we ourselves have to take care of us, and nobody will, people can forget. That's why just better to remind, and then everything will be fine.
Perfect. Yes. So I'm guessing after you've gotten the job, you just let your employer know. As I said, make yourself valuable, do your job well, and make yourself critical. So, Mark, next question.
Can incoming postgrad students apply to be a global ambassador?
Oh. If you email the Global Room separately on that, please. Can an incoming postgrad student apply?
Can an incoming, yeah.
Okay. Well, the recruitment cycle for the Global Room is already over for this year, I'm afraid. So if your postgrad is more than a year, I suppose you can apply for next year. Yeah.
All right. So does a 1G stamp apply to a PhD program at Trinity? Or would I just register for immigration again, as I've been doing for my undergrad?
If you're moving, does that question mean that they're moving on from an undergrad to a PhD?
I assume so, yeah.
Okay, so that's still a stamp 2. If you're moving from an undergrad to a PhD, it's a stamp 2.
Okay, so I'm about to commence my dissertation at TCD for my second master's degree and considering to pursue a PhD as early as next year. Given the level of time commitment, usually spanning several years, would I be able to move my family to Ireland during this time, having a stamp 1G or a work permit?
If you have a critical skills work permit, that's different. It offers you different rights than a stamp 2. Normally on a stamp 2 you can't bring family over. There's an exception there with PhD students, and that's on a case-by-case basis. So you'll have to email visa@justice.ie in terms of getting family over, and it depends on your case specifically. So if you could email us or email Visa Mail, they'll be able to advise.
What is the process of getting a stamp 1G visa if your stamp 2 visa has expired?
Okay, again, that's quite specific. Usually you have to be on a current stamp 2 to apply for the stamp 1G, so that might mean that you might need an extension on the stamp 2. So if you, again, email TCD Global Room, I can investigate that for you. But typically you need to be on a current stamp 2 to apply for the 1G. I don't want to go over time, so we'll only answer a few more questions before we end the webinar. And if your question doesn't get answered, I'm sorry, but you can always email. So go on, Mark.
So my results have been posted on the TCV portal. Will a printout of this screen satisfy the requirements, or will I need to request a formal document from AR to submit when applying for stamp 1G?
Just to be safe, I would say get an official transcript.
Okay, so I've applied for my stamp 1G already via the procedure mentioned by Ines, but I haven't heard back from them. Is there any form of support from Trinity to expedite the process, because I have an offer from a company and I need it for that?
Unfortunately not. We can ask, we can email, but because of GDPR, we wouldn't be able to look into or expedite your application on our side, I'm afraid. So yeah, so I would say just wait and email them, and just let them know that your employer needs you to have your 1G as soon as possible.
Can I mention something here?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to also to say that I had the same situation with Accenture when my appointment was only in October, and they urgently needed some proof, mm-hmm. and I just didn't have it. And what I did is I sent the document of my appointment. So whatever documents you have that you, for example, that you applied already, so you can send a scan of the email or some proof that you are already applied for a 1G stamp, so that they can wait. Yes, so let's think about what documents you can provide now.
So you can, exactly, give the employee some reassurance that you have mm-hmm. studied, you meet the requirements for a stamp 1G, and your application is in process. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Okay, so just a couple more questions.
So my stamp 2 visa expires in September, but my results will not be available at a later time as a postgrad. What do I do?
Okay, so you'll need to apply to extend your stamp 2. As a master's student, I don't know if postgrad means master's or PhD, but master's students should get 15 months. Sometimes that does slip through because it was quite a recent accommodation for master's students. So that should really be December if you're a master's. It should be 15 months, sorry, depends on when you applied. So if you email Ines and just let them know that you need to extend, and if you can provide approximately when your results will be available, just email them and let them know you need to extend it. I feel like everyone's been hearing my voice for a while, so here's a question for Orla. What is the general advice on how long before finishing your studies to start applying for jobs?
And I've answered it in the careers ones I'm answering in the chat. So anybody, there's been 2 or 3, so I've included them there. Mm-hmm. So applications start from September onwards. So if you're looking for a big company graduate job, September onwards, you need to apply for most jobs. Apply 2 to 6 months before you're ready to start. Mm-hmm. So being proactive, I would say 6 months beforehand. If you're responding to job adverts, I would say a month to 2 months before you're ready to start. Would I take the other careers ones, Abby? Or
I think you messaged one of the 2 all panelists, so I don't know if everybody can see that.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
The other question was, when can you avail of the career service? And Mark mentioned that you can use the service. And this is the main Trinity career service, which is for all students except the postgraduate business school students. You can use the service until the 30th of June in the year following your course ending. So please log into My Career and book an appointment, etc. if you need to. And somebody asked about startups and where to find jobs for startups, and Katrina might have more information on this, but a lot of the mainstream job sites actually do integrate startups into their search criteria. LinkedIn have a startup specific search also, and angel.co and dublinstartupjobs.com and Silicon Republic are 3 startup specific ones in Ireland that might be useful.
Great. And here's one for you, Katrina. How early can you bring the subject of work permit to the employer? I think you already answered. You said a year before and then keep reminding them. Yes?
I would say as early as possible, but when you get to work, just prove, first of all, prove the employer that you're available, that you're available employee, and for some period when you have a trustworthy relationship with your managers, then you can bring the subject to. So I mentioned this up to 1 year of working in Accenture. So it was 1 year before I had to get work permit. I would say just wait. When you get a job, just wait a little bit, but just keep in mind that you need to have at least 1 year later to make sure that you get work permit. That's why for sure 1 year before the end of your 1G, let the employer know that you need it.
Someone actually asked an interesting question there. For accountancy training, students apply for the Stamp 1A. Is that part of the third level graduate scheme? That's different. You can actually apply directly for the Stamp 1A, so you don't have to apply for the 1G if you're applying for accountancy training. And someone asked there, I've acquired all the documents from my department that affirm that I've cleared my first 2 semesters, currently pursuing my dissertation. So apply after you get your final results with your dissertation there. And will the Stamp 1G contribute to a Stamp 4? Unfortunately not. So this is a chance to get up to a critical skills Stamp 4. So this will be, again, with the company that you end up working for. We are only a couple minutes over time, so yay. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get to all of the questions, but thank you for them anyway. If your question wasn't answered here, or you think of any other questions, you can, as Orla said, email the Careers Advisory Service general email first, and not Orla directly. Sorry, thanks for clarifying that, Orla. And you can email tcdglobalroom@tcd.ie if you have any visa or immigration queries. And if we can't answer them, then we'll refer them on. We do have a contact at the Innisborough Key office that we can ask any immigration queries specifically. So that is all that we have time for. I think we're at time now. So I'd like to thank all of the panelists for their presentations and for sharing experiences. Thank you, Mark, for doing a quick share of your story on the fly. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you, Ekaterina, for sharing your experience and for being willing to connect with people. And thank you, Orla, as well, for your tips and on CVs, on applying for jobs as an international student. So yeah, we hope you learned something from that. We hope you learned how to make yourself stand out. What are the legal requirements? I hope the presentation was clear. Thank you to those who stayed on. You were all troopers. I know some people might have dropped out through the presentation, but yeah, so thank you very much. And that's the end of our webinar. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Abby. Thanks, Mark, Katrina.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Delighted to meet with you.